Saumya, before you jump in, we're going to put you on the hot seat a little bit with some questions. Just we want everybody to understand the breadth of your brilliance, right? You are an amazing practitioner. You work with several different modalities. So maybe explain for us a little bit about what you do, how you do it, and then I want to know why you got into this work.
Mm, Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here again. Um, so I do several things. My clinical background is mental health therapy. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And then I focus primarily on yoga therapy. So it's using the ancient practices of yoga through meditation, breath work, energy work, mindfulness, meditation to work with the mind. So I primarily work with mental health through a yoga lens. And in the last few months, I've had ketamine assisted therapy, in which, with the combination of yoga therapy, has been a really powerful modality to kind of go even deeper into that, accessing our inner wisdom.
Mm.
And I started this work. It really this is my own healing journey. So I was in therapy over 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago for the first time, and had a really amazing therapist. And I'm from Chicago, and so I was a big smoker and a drinker, and I was like, I don't do yoga. Yoga's like really weird and not for me. But I was seeing my therapist, and I was like, I can't sleep. I had really bad insomnia and burnout. I was like, I'm gonna try yoga, but I'm like not going to a yoga class with like yoga people. So I got a book and made my own sequence up, and I was sleeping within 3 days. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is it. And that was over 20 years ago. So I slowly came out as a person who did yoga. It took me several years to get into an actual yoga class and be with other humans and do yoga. So it's been so I loved working with the people who are like, yoga's not for me, because I truly did not think that yoga was for me at some point in my life too.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. So you can fully relate, right? What
Yes.
a great testament to the power of yoga. So we're talking about resilience with our series here. So share with us your definition of resilience.
Yeah. I like to think about resilience in three different ways. One is, and this is why I love that this series is called Anchors, Anchors is in the Storm, because I think of it as an anchor. It's like what holds me steady when life feels so chaotic and out of control, and like I have no control, which I don't anyway, but I like to think I have some control. And so the anchor kind of gives me a sense of what can keep me steady in like the uncontrollable chaos of life. I also think about resiliency as having choice. And so the ability to not just have one way that I navigate things, but I can see something, a challenge in front of me, and go, okay, I could do it that way, or I could do it this way, or I could do it that way. So I have a variety of different ways that I can navigate life. Um, and then it's like, and then I think that there can be this that idea that like if I'm resilient, I'm never going to struggle. Like I'm just like everything's great, and I think that's actually quite the opposite of resilience. It's like what helps me when I am pushed down or I'm struggling or I'm challenged to come back and to face that challenge. It's not that I won't be challenged or I won't be depressed or I won't go through a grief process or I won't have like really big emotions, but how do I navigate those? And I think that's the way that I like to think about resilience. It's not a lack of, it's how do we traverse those challenging things that we all experience, because life is inherently traumatic and beautiful.
I'm glad you added that. Traumatic and beautiful. And we are equipped with tools to handle it all. Sometimes we just need to be reminded of them, right? And that's kind of why
Exactly.
we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in addition to your yoga practice and the therapeutic modalities that you use with your clients and with yourself, what other personal practices of resilience do you employ in your life?
Yeah, I feel like so many things, but I feel like the idea that like yoga is my life versus yoga is something that I either like I meditate for a half hour in the morning and then like that's my meditation practice and then I'm done with that and then I go into my life. Or like I'm on my yoga mat and I do some particular poses for whatever and then I leave that yoga mat and then my yoga practice is done. It's like, how can my whole life incorporate resilience practice, yoga practices? So I'm showing up mindfully with myself. Like even as I'm talking right now, can I be attuned to what's happening in my body? Can I be attuned to what's happening in my breath? And I think for me, just the more that I can be present with myself, however I'm showing up, whether I'm comfortable or I'm uncomfortable or I'm nervous or I'm excited, like if I can be present to that, that is a way that I can always be showing up with resilience. And I even like to say, like, if I can even be present to when I'm not present. So like, even if I'm like, oh, like I'm dissociating, can I be like, oh, that's happening? And can I even be present to the not present? And that's, you know, that's hard. It's not an easy thing to be able to do. I think the more that I can incorporate presence into whatever is happening in life, whether that's movement, meditation, conversation, traveling, going to sleep, eating my meal, it can all be practices for this if I make that intention.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Do you use the 8 limbs in your thinking or teaching about yoga?
Yeah. So the 8 limbs of Patanjali, that is where where the Yoga Sutras is the main text of one of the, there's so many texts, but the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is the main text of yoga, where the 8 limbs or Ashtanga yoga is based out of. My lineage from where my teacher comes from is a non-dual Shakta Tantra lineage, which also has yoga practices in it that are different than the 8 limbs. So 8 limbs, wait, yes, a question. I'm gonna try not to go too deep on this, but eight
No,
limbs is
yeah.
dualistic and non-dual Tantra is non-dual. So there's an inherent kind of difference between those two. But for the most schools of yoga are based in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which has the 8 limbs of yoga in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was good. I just people watching might be familiar with the 8 limbs term and not.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm gonna ask you more about that in the future, but not right now.
please do.
Yeah.
But that could be a whole
Um,
another workshop in
yeah,
itself.
yeah. Um, so you mentioned being interested in working with people for whom yoga is like not a thing. What other kinds of people are you interested in working with or attracting?
So I tend to work on two ends of the spectrum. So the people who have done a lot of work, like they've been in therapy for 20 years, they could tell you everything about why they do this thing. They know about their childhood, they've done their family of origin work, and yet something still feels stuck. It's like, I know why I'm doing this, but I keep doing it. And sometimes like having the awareness or the knowledge of it is an amazing first step and it's so important. But then when we incorporate more of the your holistic being, some of those patterning can get unstuck and things can start to shift. So I love working with people who like, I've done years and years and years of work. And then I also love I love working with people that are more like movers. So like the people that like sitting in a chair and talking to somebody for an hour, ugh, like makes them so uncomfortable. But like if I ask them how they're feeling and they show me, I can
Mm,
show you how I'm feeling, but I don't necessarily have the words to tell you how I'm feeling. I also love working with that groups of folks because we could have sessions where we don't say a single word. We can have sessions where we express through our bodies, but we're not using our intellect so much. We're just like using the animalness of our bodies to process things. And that's like super fun work for me as well. So and then as I said, I primarily work with mental health. So trauma, depression, anxiety, body image, eating disorders, that kind of things as well.
cool.
Thank you.
Well, would you like to go ahead and take the stage?
Yes, please. Thank you
We're
very
here for
much. Thank
you.
you for your amazing question. And I just want to again reiterate my gratitude for Crispin for our session last month. I've been thinking about unscrunching and ungrounding and breath as movement and be here. And so I just really appreciated your takeaways and they've informed my resilience practices these months. So, and I feel like they're going to weave into my session as well. So today our theme is working with the weather of the mind, or the chaos of the mind, or weathering the chaos of the mind, I should say. But I love the metaphor weather, because the mind, with its ever-changing kind of whims and fancies, can feel very weathery. Like it can feel very stormy, or it can feel kind of sunny and clear. And how do we work with the ever-changing, weather systems of the mind? So there's many ways to do that. And we're going to decouple some things, because a lot of times what happens is the body has an experience and then the mind has an analysis of that experience. And it's typically in either direction of it's good or it's bad, I like it or I don't like it. If it's neutral, we tend to not even think about it. But if it's like if my fingers are a little chilly right now and I don't like that, then it's going to stick more. Or if my belly is full because I just had dinner and that feels pleasant, I'll remember that. But like I actually have no idea what's happening in my earlobe, because there's no sensation there that I can feel it if I like really pay attention, but there's not a lot of charge there. So if there's any charge in the system, the mind will latch onto it and have some thoughts about it. So the first things we're going to do is decouple those things and decouple sensations from thoughts. And then we're going to go to the mind, which can be a little bit harder because emotions can be more subtle and hard to pinpoint. So we're just going to bring our attention to our hands. And your hands can be wherever. They can be on your legs or in your lap. And just as you bring your awareness to your hands, you can close your eyes for this, so you can keep your eyes open, whatever helps. First, notice the sensations you experience of your hands. Like I mentioned, my fingers are a little bit cold. Yours might be cold or warm. Your hands might feel tight or tingly or relaxed. It might be difficult to feel your hands. You might be feeling things outside of your hands, like your clothing or the air. But you also might be feeling things inside your hands. Like my right hand works harder than my left hand, so I feel more in my right hand. So those are sensations. And then once you've noticed the sensations, then notice if you have thoughts about those sensations. Oh, my hands are cold, I don't like it. Oh, my hands feel so good after I got that manicure today. I have a hangnail and it hurts, and I don't like it. You might not have a lot of thoughts about your hands, but you might. And so whatever is happening is totally fine. And now see if you can go back to just the sensation. So sensations are objective. There is charge to it because we have thoughts that we put to it, but just on a basic level, sensations are just information. They're not good or bad. They're not right or wrong. The mind puts that label on those things. So go back to the sensations and see if you can watch the weather, which is also objective. It's sunny right now, and we might have thoughts about the sun, but the sunshine doesn't have thoughts about the sun. It's just sunny. So go back to the weather of your hands. And now see if you can allow that weather to move your hands. So rather than I'm going to move my hands in a particular way, this might feel kind of weird and awkward, and that's fine. See if you can take a back seat, let the mind take a back seat. And we're going to talk about how the mind is also awesome. So it's not a discounting of the mind. We're just giving it a little bit of a break. Can you allow the hand to move you rather than you moving the hand? So if your hand feels heavy, can you let it get heavier? If your hand feels light, can you let it get lighter? If there's a lot of energy in your hand, can you let it pulse and move and shake? If one hand wants to do one thing because it's having a different weather pattern than the other hand, can you allow your hands to do different things depending on their needs? Could be big movements, it could be small movements. And if what's coming up is like, I don't know, or I'm not doing it right, just notice the thoughts that arise, which are all just trying to help you. My belief around the thoughts. And then see if you can just settle into the, I don't know right now, but what are my hands feeling? And if my hands could move, how would they want to move? Or if my hands want to be still, how would they want to rest? So if you're having a really interesting experience you want to keep exploring, fantastic. We're going to do some intentional soothing of the body through the use of the hands. So now we're going to actively move the hands. So I'm going to have my hands up just so you can see, but you can keep your eyes closed if you want. You can keep your hands down. So as you inhale, you're going to bring one hand and make a fist. It doesn't have to be a tight fist, just closing the hand. And then as you exhale, you're going to open that hand. And again, it doesn't have to be like, oh, really open it. Just kind of soften and open. And then as you exhale, you're going to bring the other hand and close that hand. And then inhale as you open. You can do this with your hands on your lap. If you like your hands up, great. You can have your hands up. You don't have to have your hands up. And again, your eyes can be open or closed. Inhale as you close one hand. Exhale as you open the hand. Inhale as you close the other hand. And exhale as you open that hand. You go back and forth like this. So we're doing a few things here that can kind of soothe the system when we're going through some weather patterning. I just was on a plane last week and we had some big turbulence and I used some of these tools. So bilateral stimulation is when we're going from one side to the other. And this can help with emotional regulation, reduce stress reactivity, and it can increase feelings of well-being, just a sense of like, I'm okay. When we do something that's repetitive and rhythmic, it also gives the nervous system a sense of predictability. And so trauma is inherently unpredictable and chaotic. We don't know what's happening. We don't know when it's happening. And when we give the body something that it can rest back on and go, I know what's coming next. I know this hand's going to close and then it's going to open. It just gives us something that the body and the nervous system can rest on. It's an anchor. And then when we move with the breath, for some people, this can feel like it's agitating because it's like too much to think about. Like I'm inhaling, I'm exhaling, I'm doing this with my hand. So if you're in that category, you can let the breath go because that can feel agitating. For other people, it can feel soothing because it brings them into the present, where the mind typically will pull us into past or future. So when I breathe in, my hand closes. And when I breathe out, it goes in the opposite direction. And then after, the next time that you're Left hand closes and opens. If your hands are still up, you can bring them down. And just take a moment and pause and notice your hands now after letting them kind of move as they wanted to, and then intentionally bringing in some movement. And I'm just going to pause and see, Alycia and Crispin, if there's anything that didn't make sense, you need clarification, that you noticed that you want to share.
I'm definitely getting the soothing, the soothing part of this. Thank you. And I also loved having permission to not sync my breath and my hands, just because of my kind of biopsychosocial history with dance. It was like, oh no, another should that I have to do. So having it permission to do whatever I wanted there was helpful for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for naming that. Because I think that's important, because a lot of times, especially yoga teachers, we're like, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And that can be really helpful, but it can also be kind of ungrounding in a not good way.
For me, I noticed it took me a minute, but the just letting my hands move by themselves without thinking about it was like being intentional about not thinking is kind of a maybe an oxymoron, but it was, once I got there, right? And the movement started happening and it was good. And then what I noticed that after kind of doing the intentional movement and putting hands back down, I felt more energy flowing through my hands than before. So it opened up those energy channels, which was lovely.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, yeah. It really can take a minute to kind of switch the doing brain to the being done brain. Right? It's like there's so much I, right? And the I comes from the mind. And again, that's not bad. It's awesome. Without an I, it'd be really hard to like go to a party. Hi, who are you? I'm nothing. And so it's helpful to have the mind and the I. But that it can be such a controlling of like, I'm moving, I'm doing the thing versus the hands are doing me. And it's kind of a paradox, but when you can tap into it, it can really be powerful to let your body move you, or let your breath breathe you, rather than you doing the thing. Cool, thank you. All right, so now we're gonna potentially take it up a notch, and we're gonna go into emotions. And so, again, if you want to close your eyes, you're welcome to. If keeping them open feels better, do that. And we're always feeling something emotionally. So it might be big, might be quiet, there might be several, they might feel like they're seemingly in conflict with each other, they might be in alignment. Notice an emotion that's present in you right now. And then once you've discovered the word, anxiety, curiosity, sad, joyful, whatever it might be, that's just a word, right? So that's just a label that we put on something. Now, see if you can ask your body, why did I say that particular word for what I'm experiencing? Is there heaviness, lightness? Is there swirling? Is there a sinking or a lifting? Is it prickly? See if you can get into those objective sensations, even if you like or don't like those sensations. What are they? We're kind of decoupling three things here now. So we've got the label of the emotion, or emotions if there's more than one. Then we've got the sensations in the body. And then now notice the thoughts about those emotions, that emotion. So if it was anxiety, is it, am I going to get called on? What am I going to say? If it's happiness, is it, I can't wait to go on that date tonight? Or that phone call was like so supportive today, earlier today. And you can see how the mind that pulls us into the future kind of can keep those emotions circling, or how something that happened in the past can also kind of reiterate and keep us in the cycle of emotion. But when we can come into the body, we can cycle through the emotion, and we can work through like completing the cycle. So if we have a surge of anxiety, we can allow that to move through like a weather pattern. So a cloud comes and then it goes. A storm comes and then it goes. So the same thing that happens with our emotions, the same thing that happens with our thoughts too. So we're going to do it the flip side, the way we did it with the hands. So we're going to start just by rocking. And we're going to do a little bit of soothing first, whether the emotion is pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And now you decide the speed of your rocking. So you might pair it up with your breath. Inhale one side, exhale the other. You might just find a rhythm. So it's like, yep, this is my rhythm. Yeah, you might be going forward and back with your rocking. You might go side to side. Either way is great. And now tap into that emotion that you discovered and see if you can rock at the speed of that emotion. So if it's a really fast, kind of anxious, excited, can you rock in that way? If it's like really slow, kind of exhausted, the end of the day, just want to, you might, like your rocking might get heavier and heavier. You might start to leave the screen. So see if you can let the cycle of whatever emotion is rock you. And then if you find that your weather pattern needs to be a little bigger and your hands need to be involved and arms and head, or needs to be a little smaller, where it's maybe just like just your chest or just your ribs, just your head. And now see if you can watch, like you sit at a window and you watch a thunderstorm. Like I'm from Chicago, so I love thunderstorms, right? So I'd sit at the window and watch the lightning. So see if you can sit at your own window and watch your own weather pattern, your own internal weather pattern. And as you're rocking, is whatever's happening internally, is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? Is it changing completely into something else? And let that change the rock. Maybe it turns into a sway or a spiral. Maybe you're like, I'm done. I'm going to lay down and take my knees to my chest. And I'm going to start dancing. And I'm going to be quiet, and we're just going to take about another minute or two here, just letting your weather pattern move your body. And when that weather pattern completes the cycle, a new weather pattern might come in, and let that move through its cycle. So, like, bonus round. If you notice thoughts come in, those are also weather patterns. See if you can feel the thought go through its weather pattern cycle. And thoughts don't have to be in your head. You might feel them in your head, but you might feel the thought in your chest. You might feel it in your belly. You might feel it in your side. Our thoughts are energy. Our emotions are energy. Sensations are also energy. And when we can allow those energy sensations and energy patterns to move, they don't get us stuck. So in the next maybe 5 to 7 breaths or so, you'll eventually come to a place of stillness and no rush. And as you come to stillness, notice what that process was like. Maybe you went through primarily one cycle, or maybe you went through several cycles. Maybe you got confused, which is a whole other emotion that you can go through a cycle with. And then noticing the weather system now. And so when I ask that, I don't have an agenda. Like, oh, things feel sunny now. And that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking more from just a curiosity perspective. So after you move in this way, sometimes there can be relief. Sometimes there can be confusion, or sometimes when we bring mindfulness into the system, it can also be like, oh gosh, I didn't even realize how much pain I was in, or how anxious I actually am, because we can learn how to kind of distract ourselves from it. So there's no like right or wrong way to observe what you notice now, but just notice what is happening now. And then we'll go through that decoupling one more time. So noticing the sensations of what's present now after these 2 exercises. Then notice your thoughts about those sensations. And then come into presence by coming back to your hands and noticing your hands, whatever they're coming into contact with. So a neutral part of the body can also be an anchor. So if I'm feeling a lot of tension or anxiety or fear in my chest, I can also typically find a part of my body that's not having that experience. And it's not to say that I'm distracting or I'm discounting that. I can feel it, but I can also go, oh, my hand feels fine too. And I can hold both of those things at the same time. Like the sunny sky and the cloudy sky and the rainbow, like they can coexist at the same time. And so we also can coexist with many different weather patterns within ourselves as well. So the takeaways to explore and play with are kind of decoupling thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and sensations. And so the body is always present. The body can't not be present. The body just is in this moment. And the thoughts kind of pull us into different directions, can keep us feeding different emotions. And that's what's called the default mode network. And so the default mode network is the part of our brains that just kind of ruminates. And it ruminates a lot about like myself. I'm doing this, or I'm doing that, or that's going well, or that's not going well. And then when we can shift into presence, that's where what's called the test positive network. And that's where like the mind can do amazing things. It's like when it's focused and it's present and it's intentional and it gets things done. You're like, you sat down at a computer and you wrote 10 pages. And you're like, wow, I just wrote an essay, or I just wrote a blog post. I just wrote the beginning of my book. Or you sit, if you're an artist, you sit down and you have a canvas, and like 2 hours later, something magical that came out of it that didn't exist 2 hours ago. And so that's that task positive network. And the more we can train our brains to be in that task positive network, this is one of millions of ways to do that. It can help us kind of train the mind to be our friend, rather than where we can get caught in that kind of enemy war place with the mind, which can happen. So decoupling, and then also either moving towards cycling something or soothing something. And why would I use either one of these? So I typically, if I find something, my internal landscape is overwhelming, I'll soothe it first. So if I just go, if I'm already like at a 9 of discomfort and I go, okay, I'm just going to cycle this, but it speeds it up, then I'm like way overwhelmed. And so first, I have to get to a place where I can tolerate what's happening in my nervous system. And so I can do that by anything that's repetitive and rhythmic, bilateral stimulation. For some folks, breathing with things, other folks, not so much. Breath can be a complicated thing to work with. It sounds very simple and easy, and yet it's not. And once I'm at that tolerable level, then I can start to kind of cycle with it, which can complete the cycle so the cycle doesn't get stuck in my system. So those are my takeaways for you. I think I'm going to pause here and do questions first before I share the self-study course that I'd like to offer people. So questions or insights or reflections, any and all are welcome.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And I had, I'm going to tell you a little story, which is that my husband came home and dragged the garbage cans outside, and I was like, dude, did I tell you not to make any noise when you came home? And I was so, I was on mute, so it was fine. But so the emotion that rose was anger. And I was trying to get to something more important. And it was very persistent. So it was just a really great, like, immediate clearing of something that was so silly and meaningless, but it was going to stick around if I didn't do something about it. So thank you.
Oh, that's brilliant. You can thank your husband for the beautiful prompt today. That's great. And I also love the wisdom there of like how our minds go, let me get to something more important, or let me dig a little deeper. When the body's just like, no, I'm pissed. Can we just work with this? Awesome. Thank you, Crispin. Great.
Shelley, go ahead. Do you have a question or comment?
It's more just a gratitude for my work with Saumya, because I am one of those people who'd had therapy for a long time. And it sounds boastful, but I could talk rings around most therapists. And I didn't need to talk, I needed to move. And Saumya helped me process pain that I had been stuffing and that was causing me physical pain. So what was interesting in the rocking is I felt a pain in my hip, and I immediately, the emotion was worried. Oh my God, now I'm going to have a hip replacement. I've already had 2 knee replacements. But as I kept rocking, the pain in my hip completely went away. And so
Wow.
I have a wonderful sports medicine guy who says motion is lotion, but that's really been true in working with Saumya in terms of cycling and soothing during a lot of difficult times where my former process, although I'm sorry, Saumya, I'm having a glass of wine. It's like,
Don't apologize
uh,
to me.
I know, but thank you.
Enjoy.
Yeah, and I like just even the word of bilateral stimulation. I was fascinated that I didn't seem to have a dominant hand. They were very much in sync. And on my thighs, that's part of my grounding movement. So it was enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shelley. It's
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful share. It's an honor, and I'm so grateful to be working with you.
I'll share a little bit and then I do have a question for you. So
Mhm.
my emotion was it started out and I thought it ended kind of like with comfort. Like I felt from the beginning, I felt just like comfort. So it was just like kind of felt like I was in this really soothing space. But what I thought was interesting was when you had us kind of slow down and then stop, when like finally came to stillness, my shoulder was like doing this twitching thing and I'm like, oh, there's something that still needs to get out. Is that what it was? Am I
Interesting.
am I good with that? Did I assess that properly?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's still just kind of like wanting to move.
Yeah, it just like I could feel it, like it totally independent of me. I'm not doing it. I could just feel the twitch and I'm like, something feels like it maybe just unprocessed. So I think in the comfort, it helped to
Mhm.
unlock something else that needs to move.
Totally. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I would
so-
just let it. Just like see what you
oh yeah.
learn about it by letting it happen. There you go. Yeah, because what can happen is when we start to settle the nervous system enough, the nervous system can feel safe enough that it's like, oh yeah, I can start to process these things too that maybe we felt like we had to. I'm not saying that this is your experience, and it can be for some folks of like, I have to kind of keep that protected or of on guard. And then when we start to settle the system, then we're like, oh, I'm so relaxed, but now I feel angry, or now I feel scared, or where'd that come from? And it's like, oh, well, you allowed your nervous system to settle enough that these things that potentially were unsafe to feel could start to come out. Which again, I'm not saying that that's your experience. That's one experience that can happen.
That's what it felt like. So I need to go back and cycle through that all again. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
And then one
you're
more
so
question for
welcome.
you,
Yeah, of
if
course.
I may. Because as you're talking about kind of cycling and soothing, one of my children, when she was young, and not young, like I'll say 2 or 3 years old or so, um, in the car, when she would get sleepy, would just do the rocking back and like almost hit her head on the back of the on the seat
Mhm.
behind her and that type of thing. She never hurt herself and she has no, no diagnoses or anything like that.
Yeah,
But I just always assumed that that was some type of soothing for her.
absolutely. Yeah.
But so doing this exercise just like really reminded me of that and how if she was doing it and certainly not doing it like consciously,
Hmm.
right? Um, so it's one of those, it's that knowing that we have inside of us what to do. At that age, she knew exactly what to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so it's beautiful just to kind of come back around to it, right?
Totally. Totally. Babies
I
are
just
so brilliant.
Yeah. I just like to
That's good.
add an awareness for me
Mm.
was, and I had my eyes shut, so I don't know what everybody was doing, but I was definitely front to back. And then I
Mm.
thought, well, maybe I should try side to side, but that was not at all soothing. It was kind of like, oh, get me back to to front to back. And I have no idea what that means, but
Nothing.
my body corrected so quickly.
Awesome. And that's when you can listen to your body and it can guide you so beautifully. And like babies don't have that self-conscious part that's like, oh, there's people watching me rock. Like they're just like, this is what I need to do to fall asleep. Great. Um, but like I also think about like when you're in a meeting with a bunch of people and you see the person that's with their legs shaking, like we don't outgrow that. We just come up with different strategies. So the person who's tapping their hand or playing with their fidgets, um, that's whether it's conscious or unconscious, it's different ways that we soothe ourselves. So we never outgrow that thing that babies do. We just suppress it or oppress it, or we find other ways for it to happen, consciously or unconsciously.
Does that soothing include like doodling? Just always having to have some type of movement going
Yep.
on? Like, oh, just explained so much for me. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? Okay, so
Yeah, I
Tom,
just got to
yeah, go
ask
for it.
because I was in high tech for 15 years, and I'd say 75% of the employees had restless leg syndrome. That
No.
that bouncing foot. I mean, a board meeting or a C-suite meeting, and it's like we all. But it, it, why is there a name for it that is something different? That's not a mental health name, is
Mm,
it?
no, restless leg syndrome is not a mental health name. No.
No, but it is a sign of nervousness or anxiety, and
Hmm.
I see my son do it, I see myself do it, and then you'd think that the building I was in was going to levitate, with the amount but thank you. Sorry, I just was. I've always been curious about that. So, but
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of high anxiety, very high
yeah.
anxiety.
I mean, that's high level. That's high level stuff. Being in the C-suite and having that level of responsibility, so it makes sense. And so their little nervous systems figured out how to ways to like express some of it if they couldn't express all of it.
Yeah, but we're all trying to keep it under the table so no one else notices.
Exactly. And that's where the problem is. And this is why a great, great book, Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine, talks about why wild animals don't get traumatized. They don't suppress or repress their natural urges. So they experience a trauma and then they shake. And so even if you have animals, domestic animals, after they like go to the dog park, they have some kind of like interaction and then they all shake, but like we suppress our shaking because we think it's weird or like we should hold it together, and but you're suppressing your like incredibly wise nervous system that's saying some like the shit just hit the fan and I need to like move that thing out. And so the more we can give our permission to shake and move and express, the more we won't feel that the stuckness where like restless leg syndrome feels so uncomfortable. It's not like I'm just I'm just over here rocking like Alicia's baby and putting myself to sleep. It's like this thing is happening and I'm trying to control it, but I can't control it. It's it's terribly uncomfortable. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for naming that. All right, Thomas, if you can bring up the slide. Thank you so much. So this is just a gift for you on embodied healing, which is integrating yoga therapy into your mental health journey. So this self-study course talks way more about yoga and yoga therapy and how we integrate those things. Because I feel like when I start to talk about yoga therapy, it takes a long time to even define what is yoga, what is yoga therapy. And so essentially yoga is about integration and union, and so it's about bringing all the aspects of ourselves together. And so even though we never did a yoga pose today, we were doing yoga therapy at the same time. So if you want to understand how this was yoga at all, this would be the class for you, and it's free. And I just want people to have this experience. It gives you more tools for how to work directly with mental health using a yoga therapy lens. So if you're interested in that, you can just email me with anchors in the title, and I'll send you the course. You can check it out. If you have any questions about it after you've taken it, let me know. Thank you, Thomas. So grateful for your help.
All right. And Saumya, thank you so much. So grateful for you sharing those kind of amazing techniques and all your wisdom and that very cool free gift. So thank you so much. Really, really do appreciate it. I love the way from Crispin's information to your information, how it's all just kind of layering on and just building our toolboxes more and more and more. So I will say thanks to you, and then I will remind everybody that we're going to do this one more time again. So yay! June 5th at 6 o'clock, I will be talking about diving into your inner power. So just adding another layer onto all the amazing techniques that we've learned here. So feel free to go ahead and register in Eventbrite for that, just like you did for this one. And thank you, Thomas. He's got the link there for us if you'd like to join us. With that, if there are no other questions or comments, Crispin, Saumya, anything you'd like to add? Oh, Shelley, thank you so much for joining us. Crispin, I see you unmuted there.
I was just saying thank you.
Beautiful. Yes. Wonderful, ladies. Thank you. We will see you then June 5th.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.